you've got to be able to really let yourself dance in the realm of the unknown. I mean, that's what intuiting is. It's all the unknown. You don't know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
You have to be okay not knowing what's coming next. So as long as in your life, you feel the need to know what's coming next, you feel the need to know how it's going to work out, what's going to happen, you will never see clearly with your intuition. And that's why I'm saying this is deep stuff that has to get shifted.
Yeah.
And this is about how we relate to life. That is what opens up your intuitive gifts. Welcome to the podcast, Katharine.
Hi. It's good to be here.
This is your first time in here?
In the new space.
Wow.
This is the coziest.
It's the coziest,
I feel so
which is why I like
yeah.
it. It's a lot.
Delightful.
It's nice. I love all
really
the
good.
different vibes though, but this is nice and cozy. And this is the energy healing room. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. I was curious which room it was when I came
This
in.
is the energy healing room. So there's also vibes.
Oh, there is.
There are vibes in here.
The whole house feels that way though, honestly. Like it really does.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can feel it in here for sure.
I love this house. It is my sanctuary space. It's perfect. And, you know, I was listening to a podcast the other day and the person was reflecting on how she found an old list of things that she had written down for her manifestations. And she was like, whoa, all of these have come true. And I was thinking about that. And I was thinking, yeah, literally everything that I intend happens. And a lot of times it happens way later. So we think it doesn't happen. And I was thinking about this house. And I feel like really the energy or the intention I set around this house was actually probably like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But it was just something that felt very far off. And then when I remember when I first walked in here, I was like, holy shit, this is it. And I walked in the backyard and I said, I've seen this in my visions for 5 years. So it's the spot.
I love it.
It's the spot.
I'm going to grab a couple lemons before I go.
Yeah, go ahead. Because I certainly don't use all of them.
Huge.
Yeah,
huge
they're
lemons.
XL. XXL.
They definitely are.
So I wanted to talk about becoming psychic today. I have talked about this, I think, in smaller ways, I guess, throughout the whole show. But I thought it would be worth it to have a whole conversation on like how I became psychic, since we're kind of trying to focus on this series of how I did this, so to speak. Obviously, this is core to who I am. And I don't know. I'm curious, like, kind of what you're going to ask. And I think maybe you'll pull out some stories out of me that I haven't shared before. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into it.
Well, I think, you know, especially for folks that follow you and listen, there's a lot of that we're intuitively, like, we lean on our intuition and we start pulling that out. And I feel like that's kind of like a very low, I want to say low, but like a baseline of that psychic ability. But yours obviously is like a much different, like you were brought here in this lifetime to have a very different experience than a lot of us. And so I think, you know, I know that for you growing up, there was a lot that was coming up for you and getting visits and things like that. But where would you say was the first time that, or like you really started noticing that you were psychic and like things that you were seeing were actually happening?
Well, definitely when I was young, but I didn't realize that. I didn't realize I was psychic until I revisited all of this when I was older, like 20. So when I was younger, all the stuff was going on and I just didn't think to tell anyone, or I don't know if I thought it was normal. I didn't really think about it that way. It was just happening, and you're just a child, right? And it was just like my fun little thing I would do, talk to my spirit guides in the evenings, and I would have really weird things happening with, I would say, like the time-space continuum that gave me a lot of anxiety, and I didn't have the language to articulate to my parents what was going on or why I was scared. And there were obviously also a lot of like scary things I saw, and scary things, especially at night. It was a big reason why I didn't want to fall asleep. And I had just so many, what I understand now to be past life memories that were happening vividly in my brain while I was awake, while I was asleep all the time. And as a kid, you don't know how to process that really scary thing you're seeing. And so I actually thought when I was a kid that it was foreshadowing. I thought it was gonna happen. I thought we were all gonna drown. I was telling my parents we needed to buy a submarine because we were gonna die, you know, like why can't we buy a submarine? Like, you know, things like that. Also being burned to death. I mean, my mom, you know, they bought me a fire ladder. I was so paranoid about this. I was like, I'm going to get burned to death. I mean, and I'm like 3 years old.
Right.
So I didn't know how to process all of that. And I don't think I really knew that there were things I was hearing that weren't coming out of people's mouths.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I look back on scenarios and I realize, I mean, I was very aware that I was very triggering to people, but I would hear things in my head from other people that were their thoughts. And I thought they were saying it. So I would respond to those things and I would call people out of how they were lying, or that's not what you mean, or that's not what you're going to do. I, just say that innocently as a kid. And I now realize, oh, they weren't saying that, because the same thing happens to me now, but now I'm aware because I'm like watching people's mouths. Right. Oh, like that's their thought or that's their energy. Yeah. And when I was a kid, I think especially because you're short, like honestly, I think this, like I wasn't always paying attention to people's mouths, and I heard it all the same in my head. So it got me into a lot of trouble. So that was all going on when I was young, but I never thought to really tell anybody about it. And when I tried to explain what was going on, you say like, I'm seeing scary things or I'm scared. Right. It's not really connecting. My parents just thought I was having nightmares, and they just, they didn't really know what to do about it, understandably. And I'm trying to think if I think that, when I got a little older, like maybe 6, 7 years old, and I was kind of understanding more of what was going on, I was a lot more aware that I was just always right about things, is how I thought about it. And I was just very convicted. I was also aware of, I had this special superpower with school. I was always a very smart kid, but I'm still just like, how smart am I versus how psychic am I? Right. Like I was always like a very serious student, and I would study a lot, but even when I didn't know what was going on, somehow I would guess every right answer. I mean, I always got 100% on everything. Like always. I mean, I got near perfect. I think I missed one question on my SAT. Like, oh wow. Like I'm like that kind of person. Yeah. And I now think, I mean, I do think I'm intelligent, but I also think I have, a lot of it is also just my psychic senses, that work in different ways. So I think when I, was like 6, 7, 8, I more started to realize that I did know certain things that were coming. And at that point I had started to peel apart, okay, like I'm not going to drown to death. That's not the foreshadowing, but it was more, this person's going to turn left right now, like that kind of thing that I had a stronger sense for. And I just knew that I knew things, and I think that was very triggering to adults around me. And I would tell people things were going to happen, and they happened. Yeah. And that scared the shit out of people around me. I know that for sure. And, teachers either loved or hated me. I just felt like adults were always kind of scared of me. Right. And I was like, what's going to come out of her mouth? And I would just call a lot of people out, and then, and I don't know, we can get more into that. And then I kind of shut it down. I would say I was in 3rd grade, and my dad had gotten in a really bad car accident. And it was like the moment I saw him, I went to the hospital and I saw his just like bloodied body. I should not have seen that. I don't know why No. I mean, his leg was like mangled, and it turned off. Like it just turned off. And so then I kind of had a different experience until I was 20. So yeah, I don't know what else you want to get into from childhood.
No, well, and I had, when I was in 7th grade, I'll never forget, I was sitting there, and it was one of the teacher's aides, and he said my name, and I go, yeah, what? And he looked at me, he said, I didn't say your name, but I was about to. Yeah. And I was like, so I can't imagine, and I've had that happen, Yeah. But like, I can't imagine that happening as a child constantly.
Well, it's very disorienting. Yeah. It's like disorienting to everyone around you, because you're thinking you're having a solid conversation, right, and adults are like, how the fuck did you know that? Right. And even with things like, my grandparents thought I was just so smart because I could read at such a young age. I couldn't read. I could just read their thoughts of what was on the page. And I was 2 years old reading like these long books. Yeah. I wasn't reading, but I could read their thoughts. Yeah. And they were looking at the page with me. I'd say, oh, Grandma, I'll read it with you. Yeah. And I would just read her thoughts. And she was like, holy shit. Yeah. This 2-year-old can read this long book, you know? So things like that came up a lot. But, there was a lot of scary things that happened that you also don't want to share. You know, so there's that component too. It wasn't just that I couldn't articulate scary things I was seeing, but it was also this feeling of hopelessness because I knew that my parents couldn't stop it or save me from it, if that makes sense. And there are also things that I don't know, especially growing up Catholic, right? You're like, if I'm seeing these really scary beings, am I a bad person? There's something wrong with me. Like there's shame around that too. Right. But then all the beautiful parts of it, I wanted to be, it was just kind of my sacred safe space, you know, and I would crawl out of my crib. My mom still tells a story. She was like, we would close the door and then we'd watch you crawl out of your crib and go sit in the corner every night. And she was like, how do you even do that young? And I would, during the day, I would practice crawling out of my crib so that I could do it at night when the lights are off. I'm like a baby. I'm in a crib. Yeah. And I would go into the corner, and in the corner, that's where this like light would turn on energetically. And it was like a giant silver pyramid. And my ET friends would come, and my spirit guide friends would come, Melchizedek would come, Yeshua would come, and it was just like all these beings who in their hologram forms would be, it was all like very like it's like silver white, it's like that kind of, you know, and my whole room was lit up by these beings, and I would just talk to them and hang out with them all night, and it was my favorite time. And then sometimes it would be the elementals, and I was really connected with the fairy side of things. So that was my favorite thing to do in the evening as well. And I just had this whole very active nightlife. Yeah.
I was like, how did you get any sleep?
From a very young age. I mean, I didn't sleep very much. Yeah. So, you know, there were pros and cons, but I think I was just very overwhelmed, and I also felt everything really deeply. And, you know, we watch kids. I mean, all kids are like this. They're so intuitive and they feel things really intensely. And I feel like I definitely had, I don't know that I would say like anger problems, but it like leaned on that. It just so much energy and like tantrums. And I learned that I had to really let myself get enraged to move out this energy. So from a very young age, like I knew what to do. I remember feeling so afraid of myself. I remember feeling so scared of all the rage in my body and like I was gonna explode. And so I would lock myself in my room and I would just scream and pound the pillow, and I do this for hours and hours, and just the rage that would come out of me was very scary. And I knew that it wasn't about anyone or anything. It was energy I had to move. And so I remember I would just be downstairs and I would realize, oh my God, it's gonna come. I run upstairs and lock my room and just go through it. And I didn't really want anyone to know what was going on. I was like scared of it. Yeah. It's a lot of energy moving through me. So when I think about that, I see now how so many years of suppressing that made me sick.
Well, you didn't know how to process it at that age too. Like you said, you know, not having an outlet or like understanding how to talk to your parents about it, or having family or friends that like recognized what was actually going on.
Yeah. And I think especially as I got older, you know, that the I had kind of turned off the clairvoyance, but my feeling and my knowing were so strong, and the feeling was overwhelming for me. And obviously it was very connected to a lot of my depression and my anxiety, but it was really hard for me because I would be crying so much about things. And you know, it's like the little things, like the news is on, and I just couldn't take, I couldn't take it, and I couldn't express to my parents how having this on literally makes me want to rip my skin off my body. Like that is how I cannot, it's not just that it's making me feel sad. It's like
viscerally.
I viscerally can't. Yeah. And it's such a different like level that is very hard to explain to people. And to this day, I mean, I was traveling with my mom, and she had the news on, and there was a lot going on for me psychically, and she turned the news on, and I was like, I need this off now. And she's like, I like the background noise. And I just like lost it. I was like, I fucking need, I like lost it because I was getting we had just gotten in a hotel room and there was all this wacky shit and I needed to clear it. And I was getting all these psychic messages about all this other stuff. And I was like, I'm so overstimulated. And I told her my brain is about to burst. And I was trying to express it calmly and I kept expressing it calmly. And she's not understanding like what that feels like in my physical body. Yeah. And I just cracked and I was like, literally, this is making me feel like my brain's going to explode.
Right.
So it's just such a different like level of sensitivity, you know? Yeah. So yeah, but as a kid, I mean, I knew it was going on. I just didn't know that other people didn't have that.
Yeah.
And what you see with your eyes is what you think everybody is seeing with your eyes. Like I thought everybody could see energy fields. I thought everybody could see. I knew not everybody saw all the spirits I was seeing, but I thought everybody was seeing their own spirits. Mm-hmm. But I certainly thought everybody could see energy fields.
Yeah.
I mean, that one, I mean,
because you don't know any different.
Yeah.
Well, if like this is your reality, you assume that's everyone's reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I see the sky as purple, I'm going to go my whole life saying it's blue, but you might be seeing blue and I might be seeing purple and we would never know.
Right.
So I just felt like, I don't know. I didn't realize that. And I was pretty old when I realized not everybody saw energy fields. Mm-hmm. Like I was pretty old. I think I was like closer to 18.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had no idea. So I don't really know how that happened.
How did that like inform, well, maybe it didn't then, like how you would interact with people though? Like if you could see like kind of what was going on with them.
Well, I think that's a big reason why I'm really direct.
Right.
And people either love me or hate me, I feel like. It's always been like that. I know it can be very triggering. Mm-hmm. I feel like people can just sense that I can see through them.
Yeah.
I don't know why they know that, but I feel like they just, people get very uncomfortable with me.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is just how direct I am and how I'm just, I've learned to hold my tongue more. But when I was younger, to me, someone's asking a question or they're struggling, it's so obvious. So I'm just giving them the answer because to me, I'm being helpful.
Right.
Again, as an adult, I recognize, let's not.
Right.
Not everybody wants that unsolicited feedback. But, when you're younger, you're like, it's clear as day. It's a very
matter of fact. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, why am I tripping? And I'm like, well, your shoe's untied. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I don't think that's offensive.
No.
But because that's how obvious it is to me. So I think, relationships were definitely, they're just hard for me because I was feeling everything so intensely and I've definitely taking on everybody's emotional baggage. But I also felt very, you feel very separate from everyone around you. Like I was very aware that I was very different and I felt like no one could really understand me. I could see everyone and understand everyone else around me very deeply, but nobody could really see that for me. So that made me feel really alone. Mm-hmm. And I felt very kind of hopeless. Like, will anyone ever be able to see me the way I can see them? So I think there's a little bit of that as well. I also think I'm really good in stressful situations. I'm really good in tense situations. I'm really good at mediating. I'm really good at navigating like scary situations and I've been like this since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I definitely played that role at a very young age in a lot of dynamics in my life about like being the mediator, like knowing how to shift the energy, knowing how to calm someone down, knowing how to get out of a situation, especially I think like high school and a lot of very sketchy situations I got myself in. And I always knew how to navigate out. I always knew to leave right before the cops were coming. Like I always knew.
Yeah.
I just knew. Mm-hmm. And so I definitely got out of a lot of situations that way. And I think people also then felt kind of safe around me because people kind of knew I always dodged the bullets, so to speak.
No, that makes sense.
And whenever there was any kind of drama, everyone always wants to bring me into it because like, Christina, can you handle it? So there, which I don't necessarily like. I'm like, deal with your own mess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's so deeply informed everything. I don't even know how to peel apart what would be different if I didn't have that.
Well, and how did you said when you were around like 18 is when you started like embracing it again. Like, how did you decide like, okay, I'm going to lean into this, but here's how I have to protect my energy, protect my thoughts, or like, you know, just protect your field in general. Like, how did you start? Because obviously you've been developing that. And
well, so what happened was everything was so active and easy and effortless when I was young. And then I have that event and I kind of turn everything off. Right. And I, at this point, basically repress all of my memories of that in childhood. Like none of that came back to me until I was 20. And so I'm moving through, you know, like 9 or 10 until I'm 18, 19, just feeling like I'm an extremely sensitive person. I'm a highly sensitive person. And I don't necessarily have a name for any of this. And I don't have any visual connection to my spirit guides. And I'm also really grappling with what I think about religion and all of that. Right. In a very, I think, more like how other people were.
Right. I mean, at that age is the time that stuff starts coming up, where you're like, you start thinking independently for yourself. You're around, you know, friends, and you go to college, you're around people that literally are not from your bubble. Yeah. And that's when you start questioning all those things.
Well, it just, you know, if everything had still stayed on, all those gifts and visions and my spirit guide connect, my clairvoyance, essentially, I wouldn't have grappled with it in the same way. And it's really important I did, because it was a very human, logical, you know, studying. We talked about this in a recent episode, like, you know, philosophy and different religions, that if I was just talking to my spirit guides all the time and talking to dead people all the time, the way I was when I was a kid, that, you know, I don't think I would really have any questions.
Right.
So, I mean, that was the other one, all the dead people that I saw.
Yeah.
Right. That was fun. So,
no, but like, not to gloss over that though. Yeah. Like that's huge. I mean, that's a thing where you're like, I'm trying to protect my energy and my field. I mean, it's one thing to be around people you're choosing to be around, but when folks are coming to you unsolicited, essentially,
it's difficult to deal with these gifts in terms of social interactions. I'll say, as an adult, it's really difficult as a kid. Yeah. And when you're really young, it's like cute. And then when you get like a little bit older, like when you're not 4 years old, when you're like 6 or 7, now you get annoying and now you get threatening. And I have so many wounds from all of that around, you know, not being believed, not being heard, people just saying, you don't know what you're talking about, you're a kid, and then I would be right. And there was just so much energy built up around that. And I just really learned that the world around me wasn't a safe space. I also was hyper aware of, you know, people, there's a lot of fucked up people on the planet. There's a lot of great people too, but there's also a lot of fucked up people. And I was hyper aware of that from a young age. I had a lot of, like, I would say paranoia, but it wasn't really paranoia. It was just an awareness of people's deep, dark thoughts around me. And I remember things like, I don't know, this is coming up. I mean, because this would happen all the time. I remember going into this Ace Hardware and there was a guy in there who was a rapist. And I remember being 3, 4 years old, and my mom always went to this Ace Hardware to pick things up. And the guy that, I would cry and scream.
Did he work there?
I don't want to go in there. Yeah.
Oh, he worked there.
Yeah,
okay.
He worked there. Or like nobody, knew that. I knew that because I was psychic. And you can't, you don't even have, I didn't have that term when I was that age, but I knew bad guy, do not go in there, like dirty things. I'm literally seeing, I mean, this is the other side of it. Like, you know, I'm seeing things that are sexual and I don't know what sex is. Right. I'm it's traumatizing. Right. I don't have, and what am I going to say to my mom? Right. Like the whole thing, you feel shameful about things you're seeing. Like, you know, this person's a bad person. You don't have any evidence for it. You barely speak English. Right.
Like, at that age, it's not.
You're barely speaking. It's really scary. And there are a lot of things where I would push and scream and yell and be like, I can't go in there. And my mom just thinks I'm being difficult. And it was a true like lack of safety, but I didn't have words to articulate that. Yeah. And I think even if I had, she'd probably be like, you're fine. It's going to be okay. But I was very aware of things like that. Oh, that Ace Hardware to this day. It's just like, yuck, right. You know, and I knew like, don't go. And so things like that would happen a lot. And I think I developed this really intense lack of safety in my system because nobody believed me. Nobody trusted me. I felt really alone. And I mean, there's just so many wounds connected to that time. I was just talking to Sam and Josh about this, like, as we've just been talking about things with business recently and in my gifts and all that. And I was like, you know, the big wounds I have related to this are I was a bitch and I was a know-it-all. Like, I was a bitch and I was know-it-all until I turned this off. Like, I stopped being called that when I was 9 or 10 when I got shut down.
Yeah.
But I remember being really young and like people calling me a bitch and calling me a know-it-all, and I'm like,
I'm just being myself.
Yeah, I'm just being myself.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like shame around that, you know, and I was like very confident in myself, and I was very self-assured because I was right about a lot of things, but then also you feel really intensely when people don't like you and people are saying mean things to you. And especially as a child, to be aware of adults saying things like, oh, she's such a little bitch, right? Like, I think parents need to think more about that shit. Like, I remember, like, you're in a situation and you think these kids are so young and they're not picking up what you're saying. And I remember being like 2-3 years old and I'm like, I know exactly what you're saying.
Oh, they totally know what you're saying.
Yeah, and like you like whisper it, and it's like, I can hear that loud as day. I'm not a dumbass. And there were a lot of moments like that where adults would make those little comments to each other and think I didn't pick up on it. And you know, that hurts. That makes you not and I'm like, I'm not a bitch. I'm just I would be like, you're lying. Right. I'm just being honest.
Well, and they were getting caught.
Yeah, they were getting caught. You know, and even at school, you know, I was Hermione energy. My hand was always up. I always knew the answer. And teachers loved me because I was a great student and I asked good questions and I was interested in whatever. And kids were just like, you're just such a little know-it-all. You always have to be right. And I'm just like, you know, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. People, and it's funny for me now as an adult because it's like people come to me because they want an answer. Right. And then I give it to them and they're pissed.
I know, I've witnessed it many times.
Yeah, you've witnessed it many, and I'm like, then don't ask. Like, it's like you asked for it. Right. So it's just interesting how people relate to that and how triggering it is. And I've had a lot of intense conversations with very, very close friends. You know, a few of which we're not close anymore because they're like, it really triggers me how you're always right about everything. Like, it's like a deep thing, and I'm just like,
well, it's because your ego,
I'm not right about everything,
your
just
ego.
To be, but you know what I'm saying?
No, but I know what you're saying.
If I know something, I know it.
Right. And like, but there's this thing too where it's just like on a human side. Like I called my best friend on the way up here and I was like, talk me off a ledge. I go, I think I'm being crazy about this. And she was just like, because we all have those moments of like, it's our egos getting in the way of like our expectation, our reality, and all that kind of stuff. And then if somebody can say like, I know with conviction that like this is true for you, people necessarily aren't ready to process it because they're still trying to get from point A to point B, even though they're asking like, can I have the exact information? Because the outcome isn't necessarily what they want. They're not ready to accept it or whatever that is. Yeah. Like in college, we always said to each other, don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to.
100%.
We tell each other that all the time still.
100%.
It was like one of my best friends in college. It was like the way it came up was really funny. But it was like a life theme for us. Yeah. And it's so true.
And we talk about this a lot now, like to be friends with someone like me or like you, it's like you have to know what you're getting into because people love it when you're stressed and you're confused and you're like, please just give me the answer. Sure. And people love to come to me because they know I'll just tell them what I think and they'll feel like safe to just fall into that. But then when they're doing something that's not cool and I call it out, I don't like that. Right. That's just the personality type. And to be friends with people like you or me, like to be in, I mean, this has come up quite a bit in the last year, like people kind of being around the friend group, so to speak. Right. And they can't always hang because it's a lot of strong personalities and everyone's convicted and everyone's right. Yeah. And you've got to be strong. And I think about this. I mean, the most intense conversations I've ever been a part of, heated conversations, have been whenever I'm at a dinner table or in a room with all psychics, which is not like, as in it's their job. Right. It is so intense. You know, everyone likes to be all love and light. Oh, it is not like that because people are convicted and people are correct. Right. And I'm the same. So it's a lot of just intense personalities and a lot of blow ups. And that's the other side of it too. So anyway, there are a lot of wounds related to that. But to get back to your question, I mean, I feel like this is the real story, you know? So in my mind, I don't have any of those gifts. I've forgotten this. And when I was in college, I went through all my physical health struggles, and I was living in LA, and I start to get into the holistic health and wellness space, and there's a lot of overlap with the spirituality space. So I'm like aware of this. I've heard of Reiki. I've heard of, oh, there's a psychic, oh, Kundalini yoga. I hear of these things. I'm around it. I'm a very open person, you know, I'm cool, whatever. And I had started working for someone who was like very in this world. And so I'm like, cool. And I'm learning about it. I think this is awesome. I love it. Learning about it. I'm not taking part of it myself, but I'm super down with everything, right? Like yoga, spirituality, meditation, cool. But I'm not really practicing anything. And then my health gets worse. And my doctor tells me to go see this psychic, and I'm like, okay, sure, I'll try anything. I don't care. And again, at this time, like I had never participated in anything, but this isn't odd for someone to say to me because I'm like surrounded by this world. Right. Yeah. It's tangential.
Well, and can I ask really quick, like when you say to like, you know, from age 10 to that point that you like kind of turned it off, are you thinking like, okay, I remember I used to have these gifts, or had you just kind of been like, it went in the back of the drawer and you kind of just had shut it out?
Shut it out. Okay. Like I did not, my clairvoyance, like forgotten about, didn't exist, didn't remember. Okay. Didn't think about.
Well, you know, when people ask you like, oh, what were you like when you were 8? I don't remember. Yeah. So it's like, I can see that, but I just was curious.
I remember now, but during that time, it's like, I just didn't ever think about it. And I think that period was really important for me to have this kind of more human experience, really experience what a lot of people are feeling when they're intuitive and don't realize it, or it's not fully on. Right. And because I was still very intuitive, and I knew that about myself. Like I knew I had a really good, and I didn't call it intuition. I don't know what I called it. I just had a good like gut, strong gut knowing, or I just, things worked out for me, or I had a good read on people. Had a good read on people, I would say. That was more my experience. Yeah. So I go to this psychic and I listen to her talk for 90 minutes. And one of the things she says at the end is she goes, you're going to do something like me. And I'm like, ma'am, no. I'm like, okay. And I just was listening to everything she was saying, like take it with a grain of salt, just listening. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. And I was like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't do any of this. And then that night I had a visitation for like the first time in a long time. And you know what I'll also say is before this happened, I was having some paranormal things start to happen. Okay. One of my friends who had died when I was, I think like 18, had started contacting me like pretty intensely from the other side. And so that was kind of already active, but I wasn't like seeing anything. But he was contacting me pretty intensely. He essentially called me. Yeah.
Oh, my grandfather called my aunt after he passed away on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Said, hey, I love you. I hung up. And then she was like, wait a second. Yeah.
It was.
I totally believe in that.
So he was contacting me in that way. So there's kind of some activity. It was more like paranormal. And I started being like kind of interested in this paranormal side of things and like the dead people side of things. And, but you know, she says this. That night I have a visitation, a huge angel comes to the foot of my bed. I wake up and I like remember. I'm like, and because I was like, wow, this doesn't happen since I was a kid. And I'm like, wait.
Did it like surprise you? Where you just like, you woke up and you're like, this is normal?
Kind of surprised me, but not really. Yeah. And at that moment and it didn't surprise me because I was like, well, yeah, this is what, like how I used to get this every night. Right. And then I remembered, wait, I got this every night. Yeah. It was literally like amnesia. And then it came back. Yeah. And she said, you need to become an energy healer. And I was like, okay. I'm looking for any direction right now.
Who am I to tell no?
Yeah. I was like, literally, I will do anything. So why the fuck not? So I look up energy healing. Yeah. I buy a book on Reiki. My friend tells me she had found this really great mobile massage therapist that comes to her house, so I should book her. So I book her. She comes in, she sees my Reiki book, and she asked me if I'm studying Reiki. I said, well, I'm just reading this book. I want to become an energy healer. And she said, oh, well, I'm a Reiki master. I can train you. And I was like, sure. Everything was just kind of synchronistically. Yeah. This is all in a span of like 4 days. Okay. Yeah. This is like, I'm just following the flow of the universe. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Things are just kind of coming my way. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go with it. And it was kind of this fun game for me because my whole life, everything just felt so planned and so logical and so intense. And here I was in the depths of this health journey again. And I'm like, I can't plan my way through this. Everything I've tried to do logically isn't working. Yeah. So I had never just like seen where the wind was blowing me. I had never just like followed opportunities that were coming in. So it felt very weird for me. And I was like, this is very freeing. I feel like I'm like a bad student, just kind of doing what, where I'm getting taken. Yeah. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. It's like flowy. Like this angel visited me and then suddenly this woman comes in. I was like, what are the chances? I'm just like blown away. So I end up studying under her, and she was an amazing mentor. And I'm really glad I stumbled across her because it wasn't just like a weekend Reiki training. I worked with her for like 8 months, and she didn't just teach me she actually didn't teach me that much about energy work. She actually mostly worked with me on my intuitive gifts, I would say. But I remember the first time we started working together, and she was showing me how to move things and asked me what I was picking up. And it was just kind of like everything turned on, like my vision turned on. And it really just took one time and everything started turning on. And I was like, whoa. And then I started to remember everything from childhood. Like it all just came on. Yeah. So training with her for like that 8 months was very helpful with my gifts. And I think it was just more practice, and I was starting to remember things. And she was introducing me to different like types of beings that I could work with, and, Saint Germain and Archangel Michael. And I was learning all of that. And then after that, this was kind of going on in my life, and I'm starting to do energy work, and it's the first thing in my life that just feels easy and effortless. And she told me, she was like, you're the strongest student I've ever worked with. She's like, you're stronger than like people I've trained under. And I was like, wow, I'm like that good at this. And that made no sense to me because I didn't believe that you could just be naturally good at something. Like everything in my life had been working really hard and studying really hard and training really hard. It wasn't like things just came natural to me. And so it felt almost like it couldn't be true. Like it couldn't be that easy. Right. So that was going on, and simultaneously I was getting really interested in the brain retraining side of things because I'm just trying to work on my health from every angle. And so I worked with a brain rewiring coach for a while, like maybe a year. And in that, I was looking at all my, limiting beliefs and past traumas and shadow work and things like that. And I had another coach I was also working on this with. So it was like 2 different people. And the thing is that there are kind of 2 sides of what I consider like my psychic training, which was one was the different mentors I had who were really working on me with my psychic abilities, like my vision, my hearing, like the very tangible psychic things, the practices, the protection, things like that. But the other half of it that was just as important was the self-development work. And that is really what turned my gifts on. Like, I mean, they were on, but that's what amplified everything, because the more of the trauma and the shadow and the things I dug up and cleared, and the beliefs I shifted, the limiting beliefs I shifted, the beliefs about the universe and how the world works and all of that I dug up and I changed, that is when my third eye just blew open. Yeah. And this is the thing with, psychic abilities. When people ask me like, how do I become psychic? I'm like, do your personal development work. Your intuition will turn online. There's only so much. Like I can teach you there's simple, tangible practices you can do to work on your clairvoyance and your clairaudience and your claircognizance. And all of that, but that's only going to take people so far.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that have those gifts on who haven't done all that deep personal work, and that's why they're inaccurate. They're super inaccurate. It happens all the time, and you got to have both.
Right.
So
yeah, that makes sense.
I was like deep in training with multiple, I mean, I always had 1 to 2 psychic or spiritual mentors for, you know, that kind of period of time. So it's like maybe like 5 or 6 years I'm like really under mentorship, I would say, in that way. And then also, I mean, ever since then, I've always had like 2 to 3 coaches, mentors who I'm doing, you know, the personal development work, the shadow work, the brain retraining, like things like that, the thought shifting, like that personal work. And that's where everything really blasted open. Right. So that was all kind of going on. And I think maybe like pretty quickly I was seeing how much things were opening. And I think I realized it was really just that intentional time I was taking every single day to practice, to connect. Right. It's a muscle. It gets stronger and stronger. And I also realized that being around other intuitive people are like, that was also what really activated me. So with a lot of the personal development work I was doing, I was changing my friend group. Right. And I started to notice when I hang out around other people who are tapped in, that's turning me on more. And I think also, you know, having mentors who are all very psychic and tapped in, I realized while spending this consistent time with them each week, I'm getting activated in that way. Like that's another big component for me. And this is also going in tandem with all the physical healing work I was doing. So the more that I balanced my physical body and the more I detoxed and like changed my diet, I mean, diet for me has a huge impact on how clear my channel is. Like, I mean, to this day. Right. So when I was clearing out my physical vessel, my channel was getting clearer, and all of these things were kind of working together more and more. And so it had become at this point like a standard part of my life. Like, okay, everything's on. I'm talking to beings all the time. I'm seeing all this stuff. I was giving sessions. It wasn't like my main form of income at this point, but you know, I was like, wow, this is what I do now. I'm a psychic medium, and I'm really good at it. And then, you know, maybe like a year and a half into that is when I started channeling. And it happened kind of accidentally. Like one night I was just meditating, and I remember it's kind of like my eyes closed and I just kind of like bopped out and my mouth was moving, and I didn't know what I was saying, but something was being said, and it was a lot, and I was like, what the hell? And I was scared, if I opened my eyes, am I going to break out of it? What's going on? And then the next day, the same thing happened. So at this point I was prepared. So I had a recording device, and then I listened, and everything I recorded was really good. It was like, oh shit, like I need more of this. So I was practicing more of that. And I didn't know who Abraham Hicks was. Oh, really? I didn't know anything. And it was just around the time that this happened that came into my awareness. And it had also come up with one of my mentors, and she had a good friend who was a trance channel, and then I was kind of getting connected to other trance channels. So when that started happening, I pretty much immediately was like, okay, I need to go talk to these people because I can't just do this willy-nilly. So I got training with other trance channels, and then was practicing that consistently, and that opened up, and you know, kind of built on itself. And you know. Well,
and like I think the thing that's like I'm really hearing too so much of this is like you did the work that needed to happen in order for it to open more and more. Like doing there's so many times that folks like want to do something, but they're not willing to like do the work to get there. And it's like doing that limiting beliefs and all that. And it's like you're essentially like breaking down a brick wall that you keep running into, and the more you break it down, then everything else does open up. You know, and you start channeling, and you're like, wait, I need to figure out how to do this, not to say properly or correctly, because you'll develop your own way, but like how do I contain it in a way safely, that like safely, intentionally. And then you went and looked for help. And I think that that's something that like in life is such a good lesson of like, you can move forward and embrace things, but like learn how to grow into it and grow into it properly. That's very like my firstborn Aries-ness of
no,
like, you gotta do it the right way. But
I totally agree. And this is a big reason why I don't teach other people, because most people are not willing to do what it takes. Like if I was to train someone on like the level of training you would go in, like people don't want to do it.
Well, we talk about that with like so many things in general that like people just aren't willing to do it.
Yeah. And that's the most important work for an intuitive, a psychic. It is your own personal work. It's your own ego work. Like you've got to get your ego out of the way. You've got to be unbiased, non-judgmental. You can't have expectations. You have to be incredibly open. Any of your own biases are going to get in the way. And that's the real work of channeling. You know, people are kind of, they'll channel within the realm of what they're comfortable with. You're not really getting a clean read then.
Yeah.
And people also like to channel things that they like, right? Not necessarily a clean read. So people don't know how to peel apart their own thoughts, their own desires, their own wants from what they're getting.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that people also think that they're getting intuitively that are just their thoughts.
How would you say for someone who's like feeling these intuitive things, like what's a good way for them to like truly understand what's an ego thought that came through, or like what's an intuition? Like I know I have a way that I try to discern it, like of how it feels in my body or where I like feel it come in. But it's not, I mean, sometimes I'm like, I think my ego just gets in the way too.
Yeah. I'll answer it in different ways.
Yeah.
I think people, when they ask me that, often they want a quick, in the moment, how do I figure this out? And my real answer to this is you have to do the fucking life work to learn where ego is showing up and how that feels. And that's a big untangling work. That's not this, does it sound like this or sound like that?
Yeah.
That's the real work, you know? And so when you get to know yourself and your shadow and your ego and your trauma and your thoughts so intimately, it's very clear to me all the time what's my ego and what's my soul and what's my brain. And I can give you a quick, like for me, how it feels, but that's not actually my process of figuring it out.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
it does make sense. Yeah.
I know where it's coming from before I say it. It's not that came up. Where is that coming from? That's not actually how I do it. And so I think I just want, if people are serious about this and they want to be as accurate as they can be with their gifts, the best thing you can do is dive into this personal development work. And I just feel like a lot of people, it's weird to me because personal development is more accessible than ever before.
Oh my God. Yeah.
There's so many resources and everybody thinks they're doing it and they're not. They're not. The number of people I talk to who say they're really into personal development, that's a focus of their lives, and they're reading all these books. And I'm like, then why do you still have all these fucking problems? Like, they're not. I'm telling you, I honestly just don't think you're doing personal development unless you are working with someone. You're working with somebody who's calling out your bullshit again and again and again.
Yeah.
And that's where there are limitations with therapy, in my opinion, because a lot of therapy is not necessarily calling you out on your bullshit, right? It's like, depending on the type of therapist, there's lots of different types of therapy. A therapist was never going to get me to where I needed to go. And that's why when I was really serious about this, I stopped going to therapy and I started working with coaches and like mentors and people who would just call me on my bullshit. And like, we really got to get under there and see where the ego is popping up. What are your mental thoughts? What are your beliefs? Because it's all about, you got to challenge every single belief you have and ask where that's coming from.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. And I hate to be, I'm kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say negative, but this is one of the reasons why Ahai is so important to me, because I really want to have somewhere where people can go where I can like really teach them the way I would want to teach them. And there are different levels of that, but the way that I want to teach people is so much more in depth and intensive than what people expect. And it's, a lot of people don't want to do that, right? They want to take the psychic development course. They want to just, you know, what meditation can I do to open my third eye? And I'm like, you want to open your third eye? Like, get into fucking 10 years of personal work and look at your bullshit.
Yeah.
That's how you open your third eye. And that's why there's all kinds of people who become psychic, extremely psychic, and they've never taken a course on how to open your third eye or how to turn on your clairaudience. They've never explored any of those techniques, because techniques don't really matter. Like, what matters is you getting out of your own way. And it's even, you know, that's the problem, is I do like to explain to people how their intuition is coming up, but the problem is a lot of people think that they have a gut feeling and it's really just their fear, It's their conditioning. Right. And, you know, sometimes I'll be with someone and they'll be like, you know, my gut is saying no. And I'm like, that's not your gut.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, like whatever. I guess it's your gut, but your gut right now is connected to your fear and your conditioning, and you're uncomfortable.
Right.
And I notice this with a lot of professional psychics. It's not in alignment. No, I'm getting an intuitive no. No, you're not comfortable.
Right.
Because you're not already good at that, and you don't want to be a newbie.
Well, and we've been taught, I think especially, I feel like, I don't know what it is, maybe since like social media, that like everything's supposed to be sunshine and rainbows all the time. And like, we're not supposed to be comfortable or patient, or like we don't need to be those things, that it's like that instant gratification or like always getting to be happy. And like, it's not true. Like, I feel like I have been getting lessons in patience over and over and over.
Yeah.
And it is that kind of thing where you really have to just like let go and really just learn, like, I don't have to have all the information right now. So how can I go inward and like listen? And because like my mom always taught me, like, fear is false evidence appearing real, you know, and just like letting that go as best we can without getting anxious or holding on, because it's almost more comfortable to hold on to the fear.
Yeah.
Because that feeling is safe, because you've done it for so much. I can hold on to the fear and be scared instead of just being like, well, what if it doesn't matter? Or what if, whatever we were talking earlier about conviction, like, what if I just know that where I'm going is what it needs to be, you know? And I feel like that's a lot of what you've been talking about. It's just like, you get rid of the bullshit. That's that in between bullshit.
The big thing here is you have to be okay with change. And people who don't like change, they're never going to get the truth. They're never going to be able to see that, because once you know things, you can't unknow them, and then you're going to have to change them. Right. So that's really the kernel we've got to get at is, are you unwilling to see the truth? And you have to be willing to change your mind. Like, you know, for me, it's like, I have to be humble. I have to, as much as I'm confident in what I know, and anyone who's listened to this show for a long time, like, you've heard me many times, I've changed my mind or I've gotten new information. You have to be able to say, you know, I was wrong about this. Or, I mean, there's so many times in readings, I would say like 90% of the time, I'm like, I would never give you this advice, but I'm going to tell you what your spirit guides are saying. And this is what they're saying. So you have to be okay with changing your mind. You have to be okay with, you know, making new choices. You have to be okay with doing things that are kind of scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about real life things where sometimes the intuitive answer is, hey, this friend you have who you love dearly, they're draining your energy. And there's no piece of me that wants to change that relationship because I love them and they're not a bad person and blah, blah, blah. But that's the truth of what the problem is.
Right.
And this comes up all the time in sessions with people. They'll want the answer and I'll give them the answer. They don't like the answer.
Right.
They're like, well, no, I don't want that. So what else can I do? I'm like, that's just what the answer is, because life is about bravery and life is about making tough choices and life is about growth, and growth is uncomfortable. So you've got to be able to really let yourself dance in the realm of the unknown. I mean, that's what intuiting is. It's all the unknown. You don't know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And I think about the same skill I have where anyone who knows me knows I'm comfortable, much more comfortable always winging something. I don't like to prepare at all for anything. If I have to prepare, I don't want to do it. I was not like that most of my life. I needed to be prepared. I never wanted to give a presentation, you know, without having everything planned. But it was that skill I had to learn of like, yeah, you're going to launch into something. You don't know what you're going to say. You don't know what's going to come up. And you got to get comfortable with that, right? When you're intuiting, you're like in a sea of everything. You don't know what's going to come forward. You have to be okay not knowing what's coming next. And I want people to really feel into that. You have to be okay not knowing what's coming next. So as long as in your life, you feel the need to know what's coming next, you feel the need to know how it's going to work out, what's going to happen, you will never see clearly with your intuition. And that's why I'm saying this is deep stuff that has to get shifted. Yeah. And this is about how we relate to life. That is what opens up your intuitive gifts. Yeah. So for me,
it's like totally hitting.
Yeah. Oh, it's good.
Because you know what's going on. And it's like, I've been having to literally be, okay, for people who are listening, I got diagnosed with breast cancer and it's okay. But it's like literally this entire journey is, I have to be okay with what's coming next. I just have to be like, And I get to have I feel like I get to have some control I get to have decision-making power, I should say, to empower myself, which has been really wonderful. But I do feel like I'm just at the mercy of test results right now. Mm-hmm. And I've been visualizing what that looks like. And my prognosis is wonderful. And it's very much, aligned with if I have to go through this the way I'd want to go through it. But it's literally been, all of this has been about control. Mm-hmm. All of it has been about control and change. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, if this is what it's taking.
Yeah.
Like when this first happened, I was like, what do I need to know? And it was like, you're supported. Like that's what, and the support that's come through is amazing, but it's like that control and change is just like crazy. So sorry. It just,
no, don't apologize.
It just really hit when you said that. 'Cause it's true.
This is a big reason why a lot of people, it's different for everyone, but for a lot of people, when their intuitive abilities are trying to get blasted open, they will have an extreme health issue.
Yeah. My intuition's been insane this last month. Like insane.
Yeah.
In a good way.
So, and for me, like when I was right before this all turned on, I was every day, I woke up and I was like, am I going to die today? Mm-hmm. That's literally every day what I thought. And so you have to, I learned to just, like I had to be okay with that.
Yeah.
That was the situation I was in with my health. And that changed my whole energy body. So now I'm very comfortable with, I don't know what's coming tomorrow. I don't know what's coming right now. I don't know what's coming in this conversation. I don't know what to expect. And like, it's going to work out. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of these kind of like deep things that again are about how we relate to life that open up your intuition. And I think about, however many years back when I ran No BS Biz School. Such a fun program. People got incredible business results. But the thing about that program was a lot of people, their psychic gifts turned on. And it was that program that led to psychic development course and kind of all the spiritual stuff, because all we were doing in the calls or just, there would be lesson calls and there'd be Q&A calls. And in the Q&A calls, that's just space for people to bring up whatever's coming up. Their business, and obviously we talk about like money mindset and family and relationships and dynamics, and the call started to turn into psychic class.
Yeah.
And I realized, because so much of what we're doing in that program, it was a ton of very tangible business advice, but it's a lot of personal development and growth, and like how you have to step up as a business owner, and who you have to become to really make that business work, and leadership skills and coaching dynamics, and how you work with someone where you don't know the answer and things like that.
Right.
And so it was a lot of these same skill sets that were shifting people's energy in a way where they were blasting open.
Right.
And so I think that that's just really important for people to kind of, I don't know, look at it from a different lens, because I know a lot of people come to me and they're like, can you just turn on my third eye with you in a Ahai session? I'm like, I can if you've already have all this other vibrational work done.
Right.
Because really what's going to turn this on, it's like consistently rewiring and retraining and looking at your bullshit. And again, most of the personal development work people do is so fucking surface level. Like people are in this for years and years. They're in therapy for 10 years. And I'm like, then why are you still so avoidant?
Yeah.
Like it's not working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Whatever
I'm
you're
dead
doing.
ass serious. Yeah. It's not working. And I feel like there's a huge lack. I've been thinking about this a lot recently. There's a huge lack of practitioners, coach, whatever, who like, we need more people that can help people do this fucking deep work. Like there's not that many. Right. And people will come to me looking for a referral, and I'm like, I don't even know anymore. A lot of the really good people I used to depend on like are retired now, so I'm kind of running out of that, because it's not just a space to talk about your feelings. It's like you got to get in there and you have to be challenged.
Yeah.
And it's been years of me being in close connection with people who are better than me in every way, challenging me, calling me out my stuff, telling me you're thinking about this completely wrong, and me being humble enough to be like, okay, I got to change this.
Right.
I can't be in resistance. I have to just receive. Right. You can't intuit if you're in resistance. If you're attached, I mean, how many people spend their whole lives trying to figure out how to not be attached? If you want your channel
you can spend
to turn
your
on,
entire lifetime
if you want to be
psychic,
psychic, you can't be attached to anything. It's not going to work.
I think so many people like want to feel this, like, because they feel like there's safety in the knowing, but that's not the point.
Yeah. But there is, but you only unlock that door the second you don't need
That's what I'm
the
saying.
knowing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's this whole backwards thing. You've got to just be present and chill and grounded within it. And I guess, you know, if I could distill all this down into like tangible steps, things that I did that helped me become psychic, that I would say for anyone, like, because if you took all of these steps, 100% you will, but not everybody's going to take them.
Right.
One is physical body, balancing your physical body, eating whole unprocessed foods, like, you know, gut, like balance that, like very simple. A lot of people, that alone just starts to turn things on. I mean, you're more aware. You can tap into the field more. You feel things more. You're more sensitive. So that's the first thing. The second thing is working closely with someone consistently who will help you do like the shadow work, the belief shifting work, digging up all of your stuff and get you out of your limiting beliefs. Yeah. And I just think nothing can replace that. Yeah. I don't think anything can replace working with somebody in a close capacity to do that. Right. That's the second thing. The third thing is being around other people who are connected with their intuition. Yeah. And they live that way. The next thing is taking intentional time to practice with your skills and to ask questions, to receive. It's a muscle. You have to practice every day and consistently, and you have to take action on your intuition. If you are getting intuitive guidance and you are not taking action, the muscle doesn't get built. Right. So when you get an intuitive hit and at first it feels subtle, you might be like, is that my intuition? I don't know. And you take action and it works. You will know, oh, that was. And then the next time it gets louder. Yeah. And it gets louder. Yeah. It's like a lot of the different voices going on in our brains, the one that we listen to more, the volume gets turned up on. And so at first, your intuition might sound quiet, but when that is the muscle you're always using, that one gets stronger and the logical thoughts get weaker. Yeah. You know, so it's harder for me. And this has been an ego death for me, where I was, for so long, my identity was around my logic and my reasoning and that kind of intelligence. Sure. Yeah. And the more my psychic abilities are refined and kind of my main way of moving through the world, I can't think like that as much anymore. Yeah. Like I notice this, I'm like, wow, my logical brain doesn't work like this. I can't organize things the way I like literally can't, because that muscle isn't as strong. Yeah. So that it's using the muscle that really turns it on. You got to take action on it, and that will align with all of the other things that you uniquely need to do to clear your field. Yeah. Because it might be, it's the coffee thing, right? Like maybe your intuition is like, stop drinking coffee. Right. And you don't listen, but eventually you do. And then suddenly all your psychic senses are going to turn on, you know, things like that. But
that happens a lot. Like you're saying when you're driving and stuff for you. And I think it's because you're in that kind of zone where you might be listening to something, but you're not thinking because you're driving. You're just focused. And I'll definitely notice that, where it's just like, watch that car, or she's going to cut you, or like not cut you off, but like that car's about to change lanes, and they do. Or like, hey, maybe change out of this lane, and you do, and you realize there's like a piece of tire in the road or something. And it's like, I feel like those are those things that like I like to play with that as this is turning on, to be like, what are the simplest ways I can affirm it?
100%.
You know?
And I mean, I almost think it's easier. I mean, for me, where it really turned on was I realized this is just about reps. And if somebody wants to do this professionally, you're going to build your confidence just through more and more clients. So I, at the beginning, was just doing as many sessions as I could for free, just to get in the reps, because I was learning where I would read something and all the times I was right. And then anytime it wasn't landing, what was going on. And I worked with that. Like I wanted to know all the things that weren't landing. And I got to the bottom of it of, oh, is that a future thing? And some of it was like later they'd be like, oh yeah, that happened. It just happened later. Or there, like for times where I realized, oh, that was my Christina thought that I got in there. And so it was really just practicing and then peeling apart the things that worked and the things that didn't. And that's what allowed me to see where I was putting Christina in there, where I wasn't fully just giving a clean read and working with that, because that's going to be different for everybody. But it's just all about reps and trusting it. And I think that's the hardest thing for people, is almost, you know, surrendering the control of their mind to the wisdom of their intuition. Yeah. Because there will be that push and pull for people between their head and their heart. And as long as you're in that push and pull, your intuition is not going to turn all the way up.
Yeah.
It's not. So it has required me surrendering the control of my mind, the false control. And I mean, that really messed me up, having that control me in a lot of ways. That limited me to my intuition and feeling a little uncomfortable. Like I am just blindly going into wherever you're taking me. I don't understand how or why. That has turned that on all the way. But I think a lot of people will not want to give up that logical part, but they also want this. And at some point it's kind of got to budge for you to really build that muscle.
Yeah. How do you go about your normal days then, like with your abilities?
Yeah.
And like, what does that look like for you? Even like on a day like today, like you knew Tyler and I are coming over, like what does that look like for you on how you're protecting like your energy, your field, with just making sure that like obtrusive thoughts and things like that aren't like hitting you?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm kind of actually in a transition with this right now, or like this has been part of the exploration, which is why I was talking to Sam and Josh about those wounds and stuff. But it's so embedded in my life, I kind of forget I'm doing it. But I mean, before I go to bed, first thing when I wake up, I clear my energy body, I clear my field, I clear anything from dreams. I had some wacky dreams last night, so I got to get all that out because that's going to be kind of in my field. I clear my space all the time. So before people come, after people come, in between while they're coming, and I have a lot of these habits where like I like go to the bathroom a lot because I'm not actually going to the bathroom. I'm like, just need a moment to like clear my field, clear the house. Like I do a lot of things like that where I create a lot of like random space. People don't know what I'm doing. I don't personally like to make it a big deal for people around me. Like I'm not one of those people. You could come to my house and I might be clearing your...
Picturing you like spraying me down.
And some people are like that, and that's totally great. I'm a lot more low key.
Yeah.
And it's not even intentional for me. It's just how I am. I think because I've been in so many situations where people would not be okay with me saging them.
Yeah.
So I have just learned to be very low key about it and do it very subtly. I kind of put myself in my own field, my own bubble, and I calibrate into what am I using right now. So for podcasts, I have my button off. You know, like I'm on off, and I work with like an on off button because there's so much stimulation. The thing is that if I have my on button on and you ask me, oh, what time are you doing this? I'm like, I don't know. I can't function that way. So I'm very on versus off. And that's just what works best for me to be as productive as I need to be. And so depending on what I'm doing that day, like today we're podcasting all day. So I'm logical brain. I'm talking as Christina. If I had a session day, I would get grounded into that, open all of that up, and just move through my day like that because I can just be in that flow. So, and I have, even when I'm off, there's kind of like, there's like the baseline awareness because I just see things.
Well, you're like seeing our fields. And stuff. What does that look like to you?
To me, it's like seeing what you're wearing that day.
Okay.
And that's different than me reading you, which would be like on button.
Yes, exactly.
Just like in your soul, So there's information available to me without me being on the same way. Like I just know what you're wearing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It looks like it's different for everybody, but it will look like, just I will see where the energy is. Yeah. I can see in the body, there might be spirits around you. There might be light around you. Like everyone's kind of different.
Yeah.
And even just in the room, like I know where there's more activity in the room, where there's open fields.
Yeah.
So, and this is where a lot of people will get, I'll say things like, you're popped out of your body right now. And people are like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, I get
like,
that. Yeah.
I'm literally, there's half of you out. Yeah. Like it's like your jacket's off to me. And people, no, I'm not. And I'm like, that. It's not, I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
I was trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of.
Yeah. I mean, whenever we sit down to do, obviously I was like yawning a lot because it was so much energy, but like whenever we sit down to do like podcasting in particular, I get this like lightheadedness that I get when I meditate. Because I can tell it's like just like the energy's turned on.
Yeah. Well, and I've been struggling with that a lot because it's easier for me to be on off for what the reasons I just said.
Right.
But I will a lot of times get really lightheaded and dizzy and stuff in podcasts because there's so much energy. It's almost like then easier for me to just zonk out.
Right.
Like, or not zonk out, but turn into channel. Right. But then I won't be able to have a regular conversation.
Right.
If I do that, I'm like, this is going to turn into a reading.
Yeah.
And so I struggle with that a lot. And that's why like a lot of calls can be really hard for me. It's hard for me if I'm not channeling, honestly. Right. But why I say that's kind of in flux is this has been the conversation recently, because I keep getting, you know, told kind of to leave it on more, to not. I'm like, I would say my default is off.
Right.
And I turn it on intentionally, and that helps me navigate the world.
Right.
But now my higher self is kind of like, no, be default on and just turn it off when you need. Like if you're going to a concert, turn it off.
Right.
But that scares the shit out of me for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
It would change everything. And so I'm kind of like navigating that right now. But so it's kind of an interesting. Right. And I also hesitate to say that because one of the things I teach people that I feel very strongly about is I really believe in having your on-off switch and not being on all the time and intentionally turning it on. And so I hate to say that because I feel like people are going to listen and then be like, oh, I should do that. And I'm like, I only think that's okay because I have spent the last 10 years being so fucking crystal clean, spiritually responsible. Like and I say this humbly, but I say this honestly, like I have precision that most people do not fucking have.
Right.
Like, and
we've talked about this.
Like, I work with a lot of psychics, professional psychics who have been doing this for a long time, and they will tell you the same thing, like that they've never experienced the precision like I have. Like I have immense control. And so I really believe you need to learn that skill. It's like a power tool. Right. You've got to learn how to control this very responsibly.
You're at expert level, and most people are at novice.
Yeah. And I think one of the big problems people have, they're new and they're excited and they feel powerful. Their ego's involved. So the whole thing's a clusterfuck, and they want to stay on all the time because it makes them feel cool. It makes them feel powerful. And all kinds of weird fucking shit happens to them. Then they wonder why stuff's so hard for them and dark energies are attacking them. And why is this happening? Why can I never meet my person? And like, why am I having these issues in relationships? And I'm like, it's turn off your fucking field turn it off for a sec. Yeah. It's all ego. Yeah. So I just think you've got to earn the right to do certain things. I mean, the same way I think this with health and wellness, you know, it's like, you've got to earn the right to eat intuitively. You can't just eat intuitively. Like you got to detox from all of your sugar cravings and all those, you know, caffeine cravings. Right. You have to earn the right to do that. And so I feel like that too with your psychic abilities. And I think it's fun and I want people to tap into it. Right. And I strongly feel people need to. Like I think this is a survival skill. And I think that if you are not using your psychic abilities, because everyone has them, not everyone needs to use them the way that I use them, but in their own way, you are missing out on, what I'll say is, you are leaving millions of dollars on the table. Yeah, I'll say it like that. Like you are literally leaving millions of dollars on the table.
I'll let go of my ego for that one.
Yeah, you know. And I just think for anybody who is a high achiever, who wants to create, who want whatever you want to manifest, like you are leaving it on the table because you have not refined this. Yeah, that's how strongly I feel about it. And I just feel like it is the tool for someone who wants to create great things in their lives, and you can use it in the way that you want. So I mean, I want people to turn it on, and I want them to learn to use it responsibly, and you will see how your entire life up levels. Yeah.
So for those people listening, there's Next Level You.
Yeah, the membership.
Yeah. And you have your new program.
Yeah. I have a new program.
Which I love. Next Level You. I use the meditations every day.
So glad. Yeah. I mean, I put in there the things I use. Like I make them. The way I work is because I'm tapping into my field and stuff I want and then clients. And then I'm like, oh, I want to do that work. Like I made the throat chakra activation because I needed it.
I loved it.
So I made it, and because I like to receive that way. Like I just play it for myself. So this is the stuff I'm using. And when you do this regularly, it clears out your bullshit, you know? And that's also where like the coaching lessons come in. And like, the thing about me with my work is it is very grounded and personal development-y for this reason, because like that's the core piece of all this. Right. So people should check out the membership, my new program. I don't know when this is coming out, but
it's fine.
Actually it might come out on time.
Yeah.
But it's called The Upgrade. And it's upgrading your whole life. But I'm making that like for this reason, because it is a space to do this deep, like personal upgrade on every level work, and that will open up your intuition And it's a personal development program, but we're talking about money and relationships and communication and boundaries and leadership. And it's just like all the things I wish a powerhouse woman taught me.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, like,
Let's
this is
go.
like to become a powerhouse.
I love it.
So I'm super excited for it.
I am too. Love it.
But yeah, you know, and everything I put out is all in support of people opening up their gifts.
Mm-hmm.
What people need to recognize is there are a lot of things that they don't want to click on or dive into that are the things that are going to open their gifts. People are just so busy. Well, I want to channel message. And I'm like, I'm giving you what you need to do it. You just think it's going to come in this door and it's actually this. Right. So that's what I would say to people.
Good.
Yeah. Well,
thank you.
Thanks for all your great questions and your shares.
Love it.
And I hope this was helpful for people.
This was so fun.
So fun.
Love it.
Thank you.